Welcome to Break the Rules with Dr. Lauren Lax, a podcast dedicated to quieting the noise in the health, food, and fitness world. Dr. Lauren is a leading nutritionist, therapist, and functional medicine practitioner on a mission to help others thrive in their own lives, mind, body, and soul. And now, your host, Dr. Lauren Lax.
Well, hello. Welcome to another edition of the Break the Rules podcast, where we talk about quieting the noise in the health, food, and fitness world. And today, I have Jane Hogan in the house. And Jane is a former civil engineer, gone functional medicine coach and practitioner. And so today we're going to be talking about writing a new story in your life and in your health. And Jane's own work stems from her own personal journey with crippling rheumatoid arthritis for many years. And it really, I think, caused a rift in the road with the work she was doing as a civil engineer even. And she had to learn how to take her health into her own hands. And so today we're going to be talking about whatever roadblocks you're facing in your life right now, be it physical or even financial, emotional, relational, that does not have to be the end of the story. And that when given the right tools, the body innately wants to heal itself, and just with a mindset of you have an opportunity rather than you're bound to a disease or condition or state of being is really what's going to separate writing that new story. So Jane, so happy that you came on today. And if you could just give our audience a little bit of context about who you are and where you're coming from.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here, Lauren. So thank you very much for having me. And well, I guess I'm here because, I'm a functional medicine certified health coach, but my journey to get there is interesting because I was not in the health field at all for many, many years. I'm the civil engineer. I really liked how you said rip in the road because it's, one of those little puns that civil engineers design.
Right?
My little sort of black humor story is that I designed foundations and structures for buildings, and then my own structure started to fail with joint pain. Mm-hmm. And it actually came on really, really quickly. Like within about 2 to 3 months, I went from being vibrant and healthy to barely able to look after myself. And so it was definitely a rock bottom kind of time when I thought, I have the rest of my life ahead of me, and this is not what I had planned. I am not going to let this happen. I have to do everything in my power to figure this out. And I had read about the medications, and I knew that the side effects are quite harsh. And I didn't want to go down that road if I didn't have to. So I just started experimenting, and I'm, because I'm an engineer, I did charts and graphs, and, I'd try different things, and then I'd monitor my reactions. And, I came a long way with making food changes and then other lifestyle choices, like really prioritizing sleep and stress. I knew that stress had really triggered this because I'd had a very stressful year right before all my symptoms really came on hard. So I knew that stress had something to do with it, and I had to deal with the stress. And so that, was all part of it. Then I sort of started going a little bit deeper and realized I really had to work on my mindset and be the hero of my own life and write my own hero story about how I was going to recover from this. And, eventually I did. I still have to maintain the lifestyle choices that keep me vibrant and healthy and strong. And that's what I do. And then I decided I would totally change careers. I became a functional medicine health coach. And now that's what I do. I coach other people, mostly people come to me because they have autoimmune or joint pain, and I just love what I do. And I love seeing people transform and helping them transform their story in their mind too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And I love how our greatest setbacks are our biggest comebacks. And so I know
Absolutely.
You've made that way. Talk to us a little bit about kind of like when you were being diagnosed with the RA arthritis and just what that experience was like for you. Was it I would imagine not an overnight thing. Was it pain that just continued to build over time and then just got really bad? Describe that experience for those of us that haven't experienced RA before.
Okay. So, I mean, when looking back over the years, like even into my 20s, I had, I was sort of had back trouble, neck trouble, see a chiropractor here and there, tendonitis, rotator cuff problems. So, looking back, I did have some joint issues over the years, but I mean, you're never thinking, I hadn't even really heard about rheumatoid arthritis before. But when it came on suddenly, so I mentioned I had a very stressful year, really emotionally stressful and not sleeping very much. And so it sort of came on really suddenly. I think the first thing that happened was I had terrible pain, like suddenly in my right shoulder, like so bad it had to go in a sling. And then the next day, it was the other shoulder. And then a few days later, it was my feet. And then a little while later, it was my hands and then my jaw. And it just started. I felt like someone had like a voodoo doll and they were just like sticking little pins in my joints and it would just keep moving around. And I felt a little crazy, going to physio and saying, I know last week I was in talking about my, elbow, but today it's my, shoulder. And then my knees swelled right up and I could hardly walk. And they just looked like big, like golf balls on my knees. And so at that time, nothing was showing up in my blood work. So my doctor said, let's make an appointment with a rheumatologist. But where I live, it takes like about 6 months to get in to see the rheumatologist. So she said, in the meantime, you could experiment with food. And I was like, what? How can food affect your joints?
Yeah, no connection.
Yeah, no connection at all, I thought. So I had nothing to lose. So I just started, playing around with food and doing a lot of research with Dr. Google. And of course, he talks a lot, doesn't listen so well.
Yeah, definitely. Keep scrolling. Read all those articles.
Yeah. So, I think what happened was I started finding stories. By this time, I hadn't got the diagnosis of RA, but I was pretty sure that that's what I had because, Dr. Google did tell me enough about the symptoms. And I started realizing that other people had healed with food and lifestyle. So it gave me a belief that I could heal. And once I had that belief, I was like, well, if other people have done it, I can do it. And I'm not going to stop until I do. So that's kind of what happened. And I love now sharing that with people because that's the first thing people need is a hope and belief, because what they hear from conventional medicine is there's no cure. Here's the drugs. They're going to, take years off your life. You're lucky. And then I started running a support group locally for people with rheumatoid arthritis. And I had a lot of people in that group who were on the medications and they still had crippling pain and swollen joints. So I knew that it didn't even necessarily work. And functional medicine is what I love about it because it gets at root causes.
Right. Looking to those roots. Let's kind of talk about what some of those roots for you. Like, what was your lifestyle like before? Were you really kind of like what we would call the standard American diet here in the US? And you said you were really stressed. Like, were you working a lot of hours or was it more mental stress, physical stress? What were some of the triggers that you, looking back now, see as kind of contributing to your autoimmunity?
As I look at it now, it goes like way, way back, to childhood almost. But I think I always had perfectionist kind of tendencies and always wanted to please people. So always taking on a lot, like when my kids were growing up, I was like president of the swim club. I was president of the kids chess club. I did all of these things all the time. I took on the big roles and I loved doing all of it, but it does take its toll when you can't say no to things. So I took on a lot of things. And then in the year before, it was right after my mother had died and I had to deal with the estate and the house. And so there was a lot of stress, a lot of emotional stress and physical stress with that. And it just led to, and I didn't really deal with it. The fact that I wasn't sleeping very well. I always thought I ate healthy, as we think about it, back then. I ate dairy and I ate lots of fruit and I had bread and, gluten type of products. And even though I didn't think of myself as a processed food eater, what my definition of processed food now and my definition of processed food then is a little bit different. I mean, now I sort of think of any foods with an ingredient label is a processed food.
Yeah.
I didn't then. I mean, I didn't think yogurt was a processed food, for example.
Yeah, the tiers of processed foods, I guess.
Yeah. So it took a while to like really do the change because lifestyle changes aren't easy.
I know. It's really cool how sometimes the lifestyle changes can be the biggest game changers. And yet they're the most unsexy, like less marketed. And just like, it seems like there should be another answer, like whether it's in a supplement form or a quick 30-day diet form, which is kind of lifestyle, but not always, because there's not always the follow-up after or like the part 2. So talk a little bit about the process for like your clients that you work with. What does that look like? Because it can be challenging to think like 0 to 60. Like I see the end result. I can live free from chronic pain is perhaps the end goal. But then there's just this big gray, like all I have to do is just like eat foods without labels and then I'll feel better. Like, what does it look like to come into that place of more freedom in your body and in your health?
Yeah, I think everyone is different. And I think, well, a lot of my clients, of course, they're in pain. So pain is a great motivator, right? Mm-hmm. We're very motivated to avoid pain. And some of my clients are, really ready to make changes. And some of them really need to kind of get their mind into it a little bit more. So, I talk about, I work with my clients, of course, on food and nutrition and reducing stress and movement, for sure, addressing those. But I also work with mindset because I think that without that as a foundation, it's so much harder to make all the other changes work because as we said, it's not easy making changes, and even with pain as a motivator. Mm-hmm. So mindset really comes into it a lot. I really like to work with my clients on changing the way they think, helping them see changes in a different way or viewing their body in a different way. A lot of people kind of need some more awareness on how to love their bodies again. Mm-hmm. Because they feel like their body has let them down. And really the pain and whatever other symptoms we have is our body calling out for help. And we need to listen.
So how do you even do that? That sounds so good in theory. And it just makes me think back to the days of even going through my eating disorder recovery and having a completely disconnected relationship with my body and not like embracing hearing people talk about like healthy body image. But like in the back of my mind, it's still like frustration with their bodies and with my body. And you probably find that in your clients as well. Like, how do you genuinely develop love for your body beyond just thinking like, I am enough, I am enough, I am enough? Mm-hmm. What does that practically look like?
Well, one thing I do is I find with my clients a person that they identify with, that they love unconditionally. Mm-hmm. And then think about their body in the same way. So for example, I'm working with a client now who we were talking about these lifestyle changes and he's, doing very well with food and all that. But he said, I've come to accept that this is my lot in life, that I, got to make these changes and I'm doing it. And he is doing it. But that attitude is such a, it's not coming from a positive place. So with that client, I talked about, he's got sons that he loves. So I said, well, imagine if this was your son. Mm-hmm. And you needed to, he needed to change the way he was eating and you were going to help him. Would you say, well, it's my lot in life that I got to help you, but I'll do it. Mm-hmm. And of course that doesn't work because he loves his son unconditionally and would do anything for him. So that's kind of the approach I took with him. And with another client, it might be a different approach, but talking to yourself as you would talk to a best friend or another person that you loved unconditionally.
I love that. That helps us get outside of ourselves. And like, I know everyone can relate to having that person in their life. So as we kind of move into that place of more acceptance with our body, what are the next steps then for like the healing journey?
Yeah, so it's moving into each person, I believe, knows what, I can give them guidance, but they know what they're capable of doing. There's no point in me saying, okay, next week you're going to 3
Mhm.
yoga classes and, that's not going to work for everyone. So each person knows what in down inside what they need to do. They may not be able to figure it out themselves. And that's where a coach helps, shine
Mhm.
the light for them by asking questions and help reflecting on what they're saying so they can see, oh, right, this is something I've been doing, a behavior that's not serving me, and maybe I should change it. And
Mhm.
they come to that themselves. So we kind of work through a process where they identify what they're going to be implementing next and taking the steps to get towards better and better health.
Yeah, like those changes really have to come from within ourselves. And I so can relate to that. Is when someone else tells me what to do, I typically like still am going to go in my own way anyways. And
Yes. Doesn't
even,
work.
yeah, even if Dr. Google is telling us what to do, we keep shooting ourselves in the foot because Dr. Google can talk about lifestyle things, but for some reason, like we don't always do
Hmm.
those things either. And so well said.
But there's really no shortage of information. So people aren't lacking generally for information, but they do really need help and guidance and someone cheering for them. I think having the accountability, of course, helps as well, right?
Yeah, I always think about like how NBA stars and like like Beyonce, they have singing coaches, they have NBA coaches, and so
Hmm.
it's like we're not too far off or like good enough perhaps for that extra support. Everybody needs somebody
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
mentality.
And also the speed as well. Like, you might be able to get somewhere on your own, might take you longer. Like for me, it took longer. I didn't have a coach. I was
Exactly.
trying to figure it out, but now I know what works and can work quickly. And so I can get people to feeling a lot better much more quickly than if they're working on their own.
Making those leaps. Well, I want to kind of hear a little bit about also your transition from civil engineering to like what you're doing now. Like, was that a big leap to do something different? And I know a lot of our listeners do have like big dreams. Maybe it is starting a business, maybe it is writing a book, or kind of like moving to somewhere new, like just going for something new. And sometimes fear of the unknown can stop us. So I would imagine after what, 25 years in your line of work,
Mhm.
it was kind of like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So to go in a new direction was perhaps scary. And how did you make that leap?
It was a little scary, and I was certainly not at an age where I felt like I was 50 when I got RA, and I'm 54 now. And so it's like, when am I going to go back to school and become, a naturopath or something like that now? Like, it would take too long. So I found out about health coaching, and I could do the program online, which was great. And so I did that while I was still working as a civil engineer. So that helped. But I think the thing that really helped the most was that I started viewing the RA as being a clear compass for me, and my health as being a clear compass for me,
Mm-hmm.
and doing what filled me up and gave me joy as being a clear compass. So as I started to realize it wasn't what I was doing before, even though I loved what I was doing, it wasn't filling me with joy the same way that coaching does.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of made it easier that I just said,
Right.
if that is my guideline, it's very easy to see what I got to do. Now I had to kind of get things in place and do a gradual transition. And I'm lucky to be at the position that I am in my life too, where my children are grown and finished their school. And so I'm kind of ready to focus on me and what brings me absolute joy. Not that they didn't bring me joy, they still bring me joy. And actually, everything I do is still for my kids, even though they're in their 20s.
Right.
I want to show them resiliency. I want to show them going after your dreams and following your heart and believing that you are capable of anything and just following through on that.
Do you have any practical tips to kind of like send our listeners out with for doing that? Like for getting maybe more clear vision on what it is they want and going for it?
Well, one thing I love, Lauren, is I love winning the morning. Now, I've always been a morning person, and I've started. I don't know if you've heard of Hal Elrod, and his Miracle Morning.
Yes.
So I started using that formula for my mornings, and I tell you, it has made a world of difference. Because I used it for my health in the beginning. I would vision my health and vision myself being completely vibrant, full of energy, doing the things like I would imagine that I was like hoisting up sails on a sailboat and just doing all of these things. So the routine involves some visioning and affirmations and reading and movement and so on. I just love it because it starts my day off so positive, and I feel so full and energized, and it can help me, like, no matter what else happens during the day, I've already won the day because I've done this routine.
I feel the exact same way. And if that routine is missing, it's like water missing in the day. So
yeah. So that's something I really try to encourage my clients. The routine that I do is 60 minutes, but sometimes I'll do a 20-minute and sometimes I'll do a 30-minute, just kind of make the adjustments. And I think everybody has time for 20 minutes.
What's in your morning routine? Like, as far as like,
well, my morning routine. So the 1 hour routine, I've got actually a little gift I could send to your listeners if they wanted to sign up.
That'd be great.
So the first thing, Hal uses an acronym called SAVERS. So the first 10 minutes is silence, which is, you can call it meditation. If you want to, you could call it just deep, relaxed breathing, just sitting there trying to think of nothing but being in the present moment, or focusing on gratitude, or just sitting there smiling. So the silence for 10 minutes. Then I do affirmations for 5 minutes. So I've got some affirmations like relating to health in this little gift that I can send out to your listeners. So I'll do 5 minutes of affirmation. So I would say things like, my body is healthy and strong. I am enjoying my body getting stronger and stronger every day. Every day and in every way, my health improves. I love the foods that are best for my body. So affirmations like that. And now, it's kind of all kinds of different things. I'm also thinking about how I want to make an impact in the world. And I have those kinds of affirmations in there. And then I do 5 minutes of visualization. So I'll picture, as I talked about, my healthy body or what I want. And sometimes I might just be picturing my day, how I want my day to go. So it's kind of like when you do that, you're setting an intention. And then the E in SAVERS is exercise, which is movement. I do some yoga and stretching, but you could kind of do anything. You could do some stretching and a 7-minute workout, for example.
Right.
So I just recommend to people to move and listen to their body, like don't push pain. Do what feels good. And then the R is the savor, the last R is reading. So I find that reading about health or reading about personal development, if I just get 10 minutes done, like you can get a book read in a month.
Yeah, definitely.
And so if I've got that done for the day, no matter what. And then the last S is scribe, which is journaling. I really believe journaling is so powerful. So journaling is fantastic. And there's different ways you could do it. You can just kind of write down stream of thought. You could journal gratitudes, 3 things you're grateful for. You could journal about things that might come up about childhood, because I believe sometimes we have things we need to process from childhood. So maybe you might think about something from childhood, whatever pops into your head. Just write about that and how that might be affecting you now.
Yeah, Jane, that's awesome. So go through just briefly what each acronym stands for. Silence, SAVERS.
Yeah, SAVERS. So silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribe, which is journaling.
Cool. Well, definitely can include a link to that download in the show notes. And Jane, where can people find out more about you and your work? And your group as well. Do you lead RA group, or is that just locally?
Well, I've got an online group now, so it can be anywhere in
nowadays.
the world. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thanks so much, Lauren. People can find me at my website, which is janehoganhealth.com. And then I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Jane Hogan Health. And if they're interested in learning about Wonderful Fine, which is my women's mind, body wellness group. Well, it's funny. Wonderful Fine is a Newfoundland expression. So I live in Newfoundland, Canada, and we have a lot of colorful little expressions. And wonderful means extremely. So it could be like wonderful bad or wonderful fine.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
So Wonderful Fine. So they can see a link to that on my website, or they can go to janehoganhealth.com/wonderfulfine. Yeah, so they can pick up this little gift that I'm giving to your readers called the Transformational Morning Blueprint. And that is available at janehoganhealth.com/mornings.
Awesome. I'll put a link in the show notes too. And Jane, thank you so much for gracing us with your wisdom and your presence today.
Oh my gosh, Lauren, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.